Hey everyone, I'm Chelsea Tornetto with At Home Author, and today we're going to talk about Twitter pitches for picture book authors. So, there are several Twitter pitch party events that picture book authors can participate in. There's PB Pitch, Pitch Mad, Faith Pitch, there's Div Pit, several different ones. And if you come across one of those that you'd like to participate in, there are some general guidelines and rules that apply to most of them. First of all, you need to be unagented. You need to make sure you use the event hashtag. Remember not to heart pitches, not to like pitches that you see that you think are cool. The hearts are only for agents and editors. Keep it under 280 characters, including those hashtags. And most of all, remember to have fun. So to start off, you need to write a killer pitch to post. And templates are a great way to get started with that if you're not sure where to begin. So I'm going to provide you with 3 different templates that would work for a typical narrative picture book. If you don't have a narrative picture book, hold on, and a little later we'll get to that. So here's the first template that might work for your story. There's a problem, but the main character is determined to overcome obstacles and show that there's the theme. So what that might look like in practice would be something like this. No girls are allowed on the Sandlot Sharks. That's the problem. But Marjorie, that's the main character, is determined to sneak into tryouts, impress the coaches, those are the obstacles, and prove that girls can knock it out of the park. And that's the theme. So if that one might work for your story, try plugging in the pieces and see if that works. Here's a second template for you. Main character wants whatever their goal is, but obstacles are in the way. Can they overcome those obstacles to reach their goal? Or what are the stakes? What happens if they don't achieve their goal? So that might look like this. Ernie, our main character, wants a pet tarantula. That's his goal. But his family thinks spiders are scary. That's the obstacle. Can Ernie change their minds by borrowing Edna, the class tarantula, for the weekend? So he's going to overcome his obstacles like that. Or will Edna end up deadna? So those are the stakes. If he doesn't convince his family, the class pet might suffer for it. So those are the stakes. So that's just a second option. See if your story might plug into that one. And a third template that might work for you is a little bit simpler. So main character in a certain situation must take action to solve the problem. So here is how that might look. Stella, the main character, a star who fell from the sky, which is the situation, must make new friends and explore her new ocean home. That's taking action so she can find happiness again. So that's solving the problem. So try one of those 3 templates and see if they work for you. If you don't have a narrative storyline, you may be dealing with a concept book or a nonfiction picture book. And those are a little bit unique to the picture book genre. So here are some tips for those. First of all, if you're pitching a concept book, make sure that the concept itself is unique. Make sure it hasn't been overdone or that the market isn't flooded with books about that concept. If it is a common concept that there is a lot out there for, then maybe highlight your unique approach. Hopefully you have approached it in a unique way that is different than other books out there, so focus on that in your pitch. You could share a bit of the text itself. This is especially effective if you are really good at meter and rhyme or lyrical language. Sharing a brief stanza can sometimes set your pitch apart. You can also use comparable titles, which we're going to get to in just a bit in more detail. But selecting comps that really get across what your book is like is a really effective way to pitch. Similarly to a concept book, if you're pitching a nonfiction book, you want to make sure that the topic or subject is fresh and hasn't been overdone. If you do have a topic or subject that there's a lot out there about, then Obviously, you want to highlight however you have done your unique approach, whatever you've done to make that approach stand out. Sometimes in nonfiction, particularly with biographies, there is a story arc kind of embedded within the nonfiction information. So you might, with a nonfiction book, be able to use one of those templates that we mentioned earlier. Another thing that you can do is indicate in your pitch why you specifically are qualified to write this book. So if you are a scientist who studies a certain animal and that's the animal that the book is about, mention that briefly, of course, in the pitch. Another good approach with nonfiction is to share or start with a shocking fact from the book. So nonfiction is meant to hook kids into learning. So do that in your pitch. Share a shocking fact that's going to hook the agent or editor who's reading it and have them think, wow, I didn't know that. That's a good way to attract attention. All right, so let's talk about comparable titles. Comp titles, as we call them, are a great way to give an agent or editor a sense of what your book will feel like when they read it without spending too much as far as character count, because remember, you are limited to that 280 characters. The fun thing about comp titles in a Twitter pitch party is that you can throw the rules out the window. So all the rules that you hear about writing a query letter where they say it needs to be a recent comp within the past 5 years in the same genre, et cetera, you can kind of ignore those when you're doing a Twitter pitch party. Have fun with it and think outside the box. So, for example, you could pitch a book, so the Biscuit series, with Pixar's movie Up and combine a movie with a book. You could take one book, like Give a Mouse a Cookie, and kind of add a little description of how your book is going to take that differently. So Give a Mouse a Cookie with an environmental twist gives an idea of what the book is going to be about. And then this last one, just to show you how you can truly throw the rules out the window, The Walking Dead meets Frog and Toad. I literally had an idea for a picture book the other day about two zombies who were best friends and immediately thought of Frog and Toad. And then to get across the zombie aspect, you throw in The Walking Dead. That's shocking. Obviously, it's going to attract attention. And picture book editors are going to assume, obviously it's going to be age appropriate for a picture book, but that gets their attention and gives them a sort of humorous idea of what you're going for. Hashtags are super important in Twitter pitch parties. So the main hashtag that you definitely need to include, of course, is the hashtag for the event. So hashtag PBPitch, hashtag PitMad, or whatever the event is called. And definitely check the guidelines on the website before you begin. But there are some additional hashtags that you can use to sort of help agents and editors filter through and find what they're interested in. So this list here is a list of common hashtags that are indicated on some of the events' websites. There are more than this, obviously. Just make sure that you're using ones that are well known. Don't make up, this is not the time to make up your own hashtag to indicate what your book is about. But hashtag NF for nonfiction, hashtag C for concept, own voices, hashtag OWN is a common hashtag, et cetera. There's a bunch of them listed on your screen. So definitely take those into account when you're writing your pitch and make sure that you have enough character space left to include those. Emojis are a fun way to cut length on your character count, but they do have to be used carefully. So the fun thing about emojis is that they can replace a whole word. Nouns are usually the easiest thing to replace because they are very literal and clear, that you can replace, a word with a picture of that word. That works well. They can help you cut length, just kind of showing you what I mean there, and make sure that they are very easy to interpret. If you're not sure if it's going to work, I would recommend not using that emoji, but it can be a good way if you're really trying to cut that count down and fit in all the information that you need. Emojis can be helpful. All right, another tip and trick, adios adjectives. Now, not all adjectives, obviously, but what we're talking about here is try to leave out any general adjectives that describe the book as a whole. So there's no need for you to say, this sweet, poignant picture book is blah, blah, blah. You want to cut out those unnecessary words and focus on the most critical information. So after you've written your pitches, go back through and make sure that you're not taking up space with these general adjectives. Another great tip or trick is to avoid being vague. Sometimes we tend to do this when we're trying to shorten something up. We use generalities, we summarize. But being specific is always better. So instead of saying something like, she must overcome her fear, try, she must leap from the high dive. Instead of saying something like, he'll use his superpower, try saying, he'll use his X-ray vision. Or instead of saying, they'll have to overcome obstacles, try saying, they'll have to find Mr. Smith's missing glasses. So you can see it doesn't really add a whole lot of length to be specific in some cases, so always do that when you can. And don't forget to be organized and prepare for the pitch ahead of time. Definitely recommend typing up your pitches in a Word or Google Doc so that you can count the characters ahead of time. Make sure that you just copy and paste the day of the event so there's no stress in typing it up right that minute. And another tip is that Twitter actually allows you to schedule your posts ahead of time. So you could, if you're not going to be available on the day of the event, you could type up your pitches and schedule that post to go live during the time, and then you don't have to worry about it at all. So if you're prepping for an upcoming pitch party on Twitter, use some of these tips and hopefully you'll get that agent like. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.